What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Long time no see, but although I've been really busy, I've got a lot of stuff done on the truck, and that's why I'm making this video, to hopefully bridge the gap between the last update video and the episodes to come. Because I'm shooting like 6 episodes right now and they're all kind of out of sequence, I feel like it'd be a smoother transition if I just kind of talk about the truck right now, what's been done and what's about to come. That way, if you see something in another video, you're not wondering if I'm going to talk about it later. You notice I got my problem solver right here. This is a DJI OM4 gimbal. I've taken a lot of feedback from you guys. I know that some of my footage is a little bit shaky. I know I edit them, so I see it sometimes, and yeah, it can be a little bit nauseating, and sorry about that in the past. But yeah, this should be interesting. I've never used a gimbal before in my life, so there's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve there, but I think I can get it figured out. It shouldn't be too hard. It's just because I shoot my videos with video stabilization off. I don't like to use video stabilization because when it's on, it zooms the frame in really far, because the way that phones and some other smaller cameras are able to stabilize is they have a little bit of optical stabilization mechanically, but they're using more digital trickery. They have a zoomed in rectangle that's smaller than the output frame, so then it's able to move inside of it a lot easier. But I just don't like how far in it's cropped. I'm not able to get a better picture, so I shoot it with it off, but you know, compromise, right? So any shaking, you're gonna be able to pick that up. So hopefully this will fix that issue. Also, I do have a new way to contact, well, it's not a new way to contact me, but it's a easier way because I've started getting on the platform more. So earlier last year, I created an Instagram. I didn't really use it much because I wasn't really familiar with it. You know, being new to any platform, sometimes it takes you a little while to adjust, but you know, I kind of like it. So I've been uploading pictures in progress more frequently and on a more consistent basis. So if you guys want to see more stuff there, or if you just want to contact me, reach out to me, talk to me a little bit, or ask me some questions, it's NR_Sanctum. So if you find me on there, just follow me, and yeah, we can get some of that stuff figured out. Before we transition over to the truck, I got some exciting news. I finally get to go pick up the body panels today from Paint and Body. So I get bedsides, tailgate, roof spoiler, doors, fenders, hood, all that jazz. That's gonna be really neat because I think that's a pretty good indicator of progress on a truck, or especially on a build, you know, because you can see it all coming together and it actually starts looking more like a truck. But yeah, let's talk more about what's going down, because I'm gonna be doing the mini C-notch video. Then after that, it's going to be the 4-link video, then the sway bar modification video. We have the fuel system, brake system, cage stuff, little interior things here and there, getting all the rest of the stuff mocked up, and tubular front end, and then the rear setup and all that. So anyways, without further ado, let's check out the truck. Alright guys, hopefully I don't completely butcher this video with gimbal shenanigans, but we all gotta start somewhere, am I right? So here we have the next episode, which is going to be the mini C-notch video, and these are some of the materials that I'm using. This is 4-inch DOM steel tubing that is 120 thousandths wall thickness. I chose this just real quick. I'm not gonna go into a full explanation right now, but I chose this because, you know, it's a rounded axle and it only makes sense that it goes into a rounded space. I'm trying not to remove too much material from the frame, keeping things nice and light and really strong. I'm not really a big fan of those trapezoidal shapes for mini notches. I mean, for larger ones, yeah, you can't really avoid it, but for a small one like this, I definitely want to stay with as much material as I can keep on the frame without adding a whole bunch of weight to it as possible. This is the little template that I'm using to box in the frame rails once this is all welded in, and it's gonna go with some 1/8-inch steel plate for both sides. I have it laid out right here. Nissan makes it nice and easy for you to figure out where the center of your axle goes, and you can see I kind of already have it all figured out where I'm gonna cut and all that stuff. So moving on. The truck itself is completely welded down now. So it's welded and bolted. I'm using class 10.9 bolts to actually secure the truck's cab to the frame, but then I also finished welding it up. So, you know, double goodness right there, so we don't have to worry about this thing scooching around at all once everything's together. Got the interior, kind of playing around with it a little bit, seeing what I'm gonna do, what I like, what I don't like. So I finished coating this dash. I think it came out really good. I used some epoxy in there and some CA, some cyanoacrylate glue. It's like super glue with an activator to kind of get these plexi panels to stick in there and heat form them in place. So now I'm going to do the old seal and smear technique with some black RTV to make that look really crisp and clean. And then we got the STI pedals in here. Looking choice. I'm really happy about that. We even got our hefty spring back functionality. So that's pretty neat. Let me know if you guys want to learn a little bit more about that. And then also on the dash, I trimmed it up. So there's no longer any lower plastic for, you know, where your glove box would be, or the lower plastic supports down here. It's just nice, trimmed, even all the way across. Turn, damn you. This thing. And then this is the gauge array that I have right now. These are just my AEM oil pressure, air fuel, and boost. And you'll notice that I got the transmission in. That's a whole other can of worms right there. I had to redo the transmission mount, and I had to redo the engine mounts and all kinds of other stuff for clearance. I'll get into that in a minute. And as far as the seats, everything's bolted down and mounted up the way I want it right now. I am not a really tall guy. I'm 5'11", but I am a big boy. So fitment was definitely tough in trying to get everything situated in the seats where I want it. I'm actually going to probably have to scoot my steering tube in more. I'm going to have to probably modify it just so it's not so close to me. I feel like it's just really, really close to me. If I was 6'2", I would have some serious problems because my helmet would immediately hit where the cage is going to go. But luckily, I think I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to just skate by. And I have plenty of adjustability in the pedals down there, so I'm going to be able to bring the brake and clutch pedal a little bit more forward, and I should be okay. And probably if I lost some weight, I'd be even better. Both health and fitment. Do it for the fitment, guys. And then up front, we have the clutch master cylinder and the brake master cylinder. Had to do a little trickery there. So it's mounted up right now, but I still need to bench bleed both of them. And on these trucks, you'll notice that there's a stud that comes out like this, how far this is, and it prevents you from taking off the clutch master cylinder without removing this vacuum booster. This is a Z32 vacuum booster, so it's even larger. So it makes it kind of hard to remove that. So I trimmed that stud down, a little bit of trickery right there, and I was able to get it to where I can remove this thing without having to take all that stuff off. And then coming to the front, you're going to notice that I have the factory steering box on there, and you're probably thinking, dude, I thought you were going rack and pinion. No worries, I am going rack and pinion, but remember guys, I'm doing a lot to this truck at one time, and I've been down this road somewhat before where I've thrown a car together completely from scratch, and during the shakedown, it was so hard to determine what was going on in the front end of the vehicle because I wasn't used to anything at all. I had no frame of reference, and I was having some looseness up front, and I couldn't determine whether it was the steering or the suspension. It took me a lot longer to figure that out. So I'm going with a simple solution for now, so that way, because remember guys, this truck is gonna have brand new braking system on it. I gotta figure out the bias, right? It has brand new suspension on it, so I have to figure out what rebound settings I like, what spring rate's gonna work for me, you know, all those different things that come in with just having a different suspension on the truck. And then not to mention the other dynamic of having an engine that's literally putting out over three times the wheel horsepower and wheel torque that the KA24E was putting out. And then having a completely solid cab, cage, tube front end, a bed cage, all that other stuff, with a fully rigid chassis where only the suspension and tires are going to be your flexing. You know, that there's a lot of dynamics in that alone, and just trying to figure that out. And throwing steering into the mix just makes it that much more complicated, and I don't really want to go down that road right away. And plus, that's just a lot more fabrication. It's going to be more downtime. I want to get this thing, you know, out on the road and do my tests and stuff like that. And adding a rack and pinion later isn't going to be that big of a chore. So what I did was I bought all new suspension components. So it has, just to eliminate slop, it has new inner, outer tie rods. It has the new control link in the center, pitman arm, all that stuff. Turn, damn you. Okay, and we got that. The whole drag link setup is new. I actually need to clean up these little couplers right here. And then right now, I'm working on with my friend that has a little CNC shop. We're seeing about making these bushings right here solid. So that way it's, because 240SX, they have them, like for S chassis, they have these, but they're too small. These are actually 70 millimeters wide, and bolt hole to bolt hole spacing's 45 millimeters, and they're 10 millimeters thick. And you got to think, well, they also have little sleeves in them and stuff like that, so it makes them a little bit thicker. So I was either thinking about making it out of steel so you don't have to press in new sleeves, or just making them out of aluminum and then you just have to press in these old sleeves or whatever. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to be making those, and then I can sell those, and you guys can, you know, have a solution there if you're wanting to tighten up your steering. But okay, let me see if I can get this thing turned back. All right, so that's kind of that right there. So fear not, I will be doing that, but just not right now because it's just too much stuff. As far as fitment is concerned, I got the wastegate dump tube all situated far enough away so where it's not going to cause any issues there. We got good clearance down there. And then, you know, to accommodate the sway bar, I lifted the engine up just a little bit more, got plenty of room now. And then I had to notch my frame for the alternator. I kind of knew this was going to happen just because of how low the engine's actually sitting in the truck. So it wasn't really that big of a surprise, to be honest. But it ended up working out pretty good. What I did was I bought the next size down micro V-belt from Gates. So I had one that was a little bit longer, which required this to be adjusted way out here. Now, since it's a size smaller, it actually doesn't take that much to tension this anymore. So it's just a little bit of movement. So that kind of helped out a lot. And then what I did was I cut this out and I reinforced it heavily inside of here. And then I used that DOM and made that little nice scalloped shape right here. And I welded it all the way around and put some block off plates and then epoxied everything. So I have no issues with how strong that's gonna be. First of all, it's in front of the suspension, so that's one thing. So there's a lot less loading there. And then remember, I have the tubular front ends coming out from the frame, and it's gonna be welded up here. So I'm gonna have some good stability there. I'm not really worried about it. And then moving on to some other stuff, I have the Wiring Specialties Pro harness all laid out right now. I'm kind of getting that configured. I have an idea. I think I'm gonna go ahead and come in here with a hole saw and just hole saw right here, put a grommet and stuff right through there. And that's where the main trunk is gonna go through, and then I'll tidy everything up behind the dash and we'll be Gucci there. Let's see. Yeah, and then once the manifold's on and everything's on, you're not gonna really see any wires anymore. It's gonna almost look like a tucked wiring harness for the most part. I was able to get the R8 stuff, R8 coil packs all figured out, and there's the new harness there. So that's all gonna integrate pretty well. A few other little things to do with wiring, but that'll be another episode. Then we got our fuel systems. That's my fuel lab, fuel pressure regulator. So I'm gonna get that all set up and run the lines. And then we got our sway bar. I'm not gonna go too much detail in this. It's just I'll tell you that it's the factory D21 23 millimeter spring steel sway bar, and I didn't weld anything. So you're not supposed to weld on spring steel or introduce a lot of heat, messes with the temper, a lot of other stuff. It has to do with plastic and elastic and all kinds of different metallurgical deformation terms and stuff like that. And like I said, I'll go over all of that. And I actually consulted with some of my engineering friends as well, just to kind of make sure that I wasn't going to do anything wrong. But to put it to you this way, we got a much stronger perch now. We still have room to prevent binding. And it's going to have a really reinforced mounting plate, which is going to be much stronger than stock anyways. And it's going to be reinforced, and then the control arm is going to be reinforced as well. That way we can run a sway bar on this thing. One of the things that some people don't know when they buy the Bibani kit is when you go this route, you can't run the factory sway bar anymore, or at least you can't run it without modifying it. So I'm going to show you guys how to modify it, and then if our guesstimations, our educated guesses are correct, this should be about 30% more stiff, which makes sense because, you know, the suspension on this truck's a lot stiffer now. We got a lot higher spring rate, much more so than the torsion bar suspension that was on it before. So you also need a sway bar that can compensate for the difference in that spring rate as well, because it makes no sense having a really loosey-goose sway bar that can't handle the compression characteristics of both sides. So like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a guesstimation, but I think we got it pretty darn close, and I'm very happy with how everything's turning out on that front. Moving on, trying to cut this a little bit shorter. I don't want to drone on forever, but new taillights over there. Fully loaded the brakes at this point, so I'm happy about that. There's the wheels. You guys have already seen those. Some of this stuff was cannibalized from my 180SX, RIP. I miss that thing so much. Anyway, this is the Koyo rad that was in it. That's the Setrab oil cooler. We have a brand new intercooler. It's funny, this is literally the only couplers that it needs. It only has 4 couplers. You know, you got that one over there, that one right there. This one comes off the hot side on the turbo, and this one goes in the intake. This is the MAF setup. I'm gonna run that for a little while, and then I'll probably swap over to a different ECU and run speed density. So I'll have a MAP sensor, an IET sensor, and all that crap. And then this is the remote oil cooler setup. This is the old intercooler piping that I had on my other car with my tile blow-off valve. So that's gonna integrate over, and then we have the down pipe, which I made this section a long time ago from here back. And this is a V-band exhaust. I mean, this thing is really old, years old, and it is held up extremely well. So luckily that'll save me some time. And then we have the 4-link kit right here, as you guys already remember. So that's going to be right after the C-notch video. I got to get this thing sitting on the ground on all 4s just for my own sanity at this point. Oh yeah, so here's what's really cool about the intercooler setup. This is what I'm really happy about. So the radiator is going to sit right here, roughly, like kind of like right there maybe. And then the intercooler is going to sit right in front of it, high mounted. And the intercooler piping is literally going to go from here to there. It's like 14 inches on this side, or 12 to 14 inches on this side from there to there. And then the piping on this side is going to be like 16 to 18 inches from here to the hot side. Oh man, that is some short intercooler piping. It's almost hilarious. The response time should be really great. I think that'll increase some turbo response as well, having some really short running pipes like that. Also makes serviceability a lot easier. I mean, when everything's just right there, it's just nice to have. So, all right guys, so last thing before you go, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has helped make this channel what it is today. I hit 3,000 subscribers and counting. I thought that was pretty cool for such a small niche channel. I'm very proud of those numbers. I'm not looking to blow up. This isn't any kind of financial means for me. I don't make a lot of money on this thing. This is just purely a hobby, purely for fun. I know I must be doing something right because I'm starting to get some haters. I see those comments, and that's okay. It's no skin off my back. It doesn't bother me at all. Like I said, I have a whole entire life outside of this. But, you know, I try to be as consistent as possible. I know that my videos aren't always right on a certain date, like on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock. I don't upload like that. I don't do things like that. I'm a one-man band here. I do the work. I have to sit there and edit everything, and I have to upload it and do that kind of stuff. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but my videos are really informational based. And this is something I kind of always wanted to touch on with everybody, but I never really got a chance to. My videos are very information based. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't really like me talking a lot. They just want me to just do the work and then that's it. Well, that's great and all, but that's not how my channel is going to be. One of my favorite channels is actually 6061. It's kind of a fabrication channel, and the guy doesn't say a single word at all, like literally just mute. And he just does the work and then that's it. And he's got a large amount of following, including myself. I really enjoy it. But for informational purposes, you go down and look in the comment section, it's an absolute ghost town. He doesn't reply to anything. He doesn't tell anybody what settings he's using. He doesn't tell him what machine he's using, anything. All it is a bunch of these experts in the comments fighting with each other and contradicting each other constantly, trying to give people answers, and nobody knows, right? Obviously, it's not from the horse's mouth. That's not how my channel is. I like explaining things. One of the most important, valuable lessons that I learned when I was in the military is to never, ever assume that other people know what you know. That's how you can get yourself into a really dangerous situation. And what does assume spell, right? The funny old thing, ass out of you and me. Well, it makes sense, right? So I'm trying to make this to where I'm coming at everybody from all different types of backgrounds. So if you're an expert, some of this stuff, you might just get annoyed and just think, well, you know, blah, 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 you know, obviously I know all these things. This is boring. I don't know why he's talking so much. But then people that don't know anything at all, that are just getting into it, they like that. They like knowing everything. So there's no middle ground. You're either going to like my channel or you're going to hate my channel. I've already got some really strong haters out there, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. But just want to let you guys know, thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. It makes it a lot more fun. And I like connecting with you guys, and I like seeing what y'all's projects are, because to be honest, there's no right way to do this stuff. There really isn't. You just do what makes you happy, do what feels right to you, and I think you're going to be pretty successful in your endeavors. So, as always, catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.